Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The state has reported more than 12,000 new COVID-19 infections in the last week, but the governor insists there's no need to reimpose statewide restrictions.
And the last thing I want to do or need to do is go back to a stay-at-home.
Incarcerated Hoosiers are at higher risk of getting infected with COVID-19. Dozens of people at the federal prison complex in Terre Haute have tested positive for the virus, raising questions about how the facility is treating inmates. Despite COVID, thousands of tourists are crowding the sidewalks and shops in Brown County to enjoy the fall foliage.
We have been just overwhelmed with the number of people.
But it's a challenge for local businesses to enforce social distancing and the mask mandate with so many out-of-towners. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, in the last week, more than 200 Hoosiers have died from COVID-19. According to all of the various metrics the state follows, number of new cases, positivity rates, hospitalizations, Indiana's numbers continue to trend in the wrong direction. Still, as Brock Turner reports, that hasn't prompted a response from Indiana's governor.
With infections positivity rate and hospitalizations surging across the Hoosier state, Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb is playing defense, arguing current regulations are working and the Hoosiers are doing the right thing.
We know a lot more about this. We know how to fight back. We know we can control what we can control. And that has to do with distancing, that has to do with masking up, that has to do with good hygiene.
During the summer, infections and hospitalizations revealed Indiana, like many other states, was moving in the right direction. But as temperatures fell, so did Holcomb's reliance on science and data. The number of average new cases has more than doubled since the state entered Stage 5 of its reopening plan about a month ago. Further, the positivity rate of first-time tests went from a low of 3.9% to well over 5%, which signifies greater community spread. Indiana is returning more positive tests than nearly all of its neighbors, but Holcomb says more restrictions aren't the answer.
The last thing that we need to do is go back, and the last thing I want to do or need to do is go back to a stay-at-home. By the way, when we didn't shut the state down. We said we've got to get our footing. When this thing first, the first wave came, we have got to get our PPE inventory up. We've got to have our hospital networks operating as one, so we're very efficient, and we have to make sure that we have the capacity to care. We have that now, and we're proving it can work.
Holcomb faced sharp criticism in Tuesday night's gubernatorial debate for his COVID response. Libertarian Donald Rainwater blamed him for ruining the economy. Democrat Dr. Woody Myers said he should reimpose some restrictions like capacity limits at restaurants and bars.
And Brock Turner joins us now. Brock, Holcomb took a lot of heat earlier this week during the debate and then again during the weekly coronavirus briefing. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right, Joe. Up until a couple of weeks ago, Holcomb was fully and firmly in the following the data camp. His policies were really on par with a lot of other moderate Republican governors. However, when the state reached Stage 5, which is essentially fully reopened, his rhetoric did start to shift. He said the initial reasoning for Stage 5 was data. At that time, the state's positivity rate was around 3.9%. Hospitalizations and new cases were mostly flat, so it made sense. But each of those metrics have surged in the time since, and new cases have nearly doubled. So instead of reimposing restrictions, Holcomb has begged Hoosiers to follow the state's mask mandate.
So it doesn't look like Holcomb is planning to reimpose restrictions.
No, I wouldn't expect any more statewide restrictions. The governor has really focused on individual rights and compliance. He even specifically mentioned it during this week's debate.
How about imposing fines for those not wearing masks?
Yeah, I don't expect that will happen either. When I asked the governor about it specifically, he said this.
Brock, we're not living in a police state, and our liberties do need to be protected. And I also mentioned that they shouldn't infringe or harm someone else. So, we can go through the mask, why masks are safe, till we're blue in the face, but we know that they are.
But in other states, there have been fines associated with wearing masks, so it could happen. Remember, Indiana initially had penalties attached to its mask mandate, but those were scrapped after police departments wouldn't enforce it. Attorney General Curtis Hill has also been outspoken against it.
So no mask mandate fines, but what about the order itself? Holcomb has taken heat from libertarians and conservative Republicans over it. Is that going anywhere?
I don't think so. Holcomb says he plans to keep the current mask mandate in effect. He says they work. He is following the science on that one. Yesterday, Dr. Deborah Birx from the White House Corona Task Force was in Indiana meeting with local health officials and healthcare administrators on how to best fight the next stage of the outbreak. Governor Holcomb, though, was not present at that meeting as he was in Fort Wayne attending a rally for U.S. President Mike Pence.
All right, Brock, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, it's peak tourism season in Brown County. Thousands of folks flock to enjoy the state park, the shops, and of course the fall foliage. But this year it's all happening under the dark cloud of the COVID pandemic. As George Hale reports, visitors continue to pack the town despite the state's recommendation to avoid crowds.
It's views like this that draw people to Brown County.
We come down and stay about 4 or 5 days in the campground here.
For many, it's an annual fall tradition to come out for maybe a long weekend, hike some of the trails, enjoy some food and shopping, and get off the grid for a while.
Kids love it. We come down with friends, and they can just run around, and it's safe, and you don't have to worry about them. Sit by the campfire and just enjoy time together.
Drawn by pleasant weather and fall leaves, thousands of visitors filled the sidewalks, the shops, and the restaurants this past weekend. Shopkeeper Annette Payne was worried that business at the Foxfire Boutique would be down this year because of COVID, but she says that hasn't been the case.
The numbers right now are showing that this year is just about as good as last year. We have been just overwhelmed with the number of people. We have been pleasantly surprised.
Many people who weren't wearing masks over the weekend put them on before entering crowded stores. But social distancing is impossible in some of the small shops, and businesses are struggling to manage.
We do still have customers who come in without a mask that we have to say something to, and some of them can actually be pretty rude, which is funny to us because they come here knowing what the situation is and with all the signs that are posted all over town.
Brown County is reporting a relatively low infection rate for COVID-19, but it's hard to know how many visitors ultimately test positive after visiting. That's because results are typically registered by the county of residence. Visitors come from all over. Brown County commissioned a study in 2013 that showed visitors to the county contributed $34 million in spending each year to the local economy. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm George Hale.
Well, the American Civil Liberties Union is suing the Bureau of Prisons, claiming the agency is concealing documents detailing how it handled the COVID-19 pandemic. To date, 127 federal inmates have died from the virus, including 2 at the complex in Terre Haute. Adam Pinsker spoke with a woman whose brother was almost a statistic.
Jimmy Davis has been incarcerated at FCI Terre Haute now for 10 years after being convicted of robbing a bank in Oklahoma. His sister says Davis almost died after contracting COVID-19 here at the prison last month.
According to a letter that he wrote to his sister Sharon Harneman, inmate Jimmy Davis started showing symptoms of COVID-19 in late August, including loss of taste, appetite, and smell.
He said his lungs felt like they were on fire. He said that in the back of his head, it felt like a hammer was beating on the back of his head.
Davis was transferred from the medium security facility on the complex to a quarantine cell on the maximum security side, where his sister says Jimmy received very little medical attention.
He begged them to take him to the hospital, He was in so much pain, but that request was denied. So they just left him in his cell, gave him no antibiotics.
Harmon, who contacted our City Limits project about her brother's case, says she thinks it's a miracle Jimmy survived, considering he already has health issues and is a liver transplant recipient.
He had written a letter to me that he asked me to bury him beside Mother. Jimmy truly believed he was going to die.
But two of Davis's fellow inmates in the same facility weren't as lucky. Tim Holcomb died from coronavirus September 14th. A day earlier, another inmate, Dale Bird, also died from the virus after being taken to a local hospital. We asked the Bureau of Prisons for comment on what it is doing to ensure the safety of inmates and staff at its facilities. It responded in a lengthy email with an outline of its 9-phase COVID-19 action plan. On January 20th, the agency initiated Phase 1 by establishing a task force to examine how the Bureau would respond to the pandemic. On March 13th, it initiated Phase 2, which suspended in-person social and legal visits and curtailing inmate movement within its prisons. Phases 3 through 5 imposed a 14-day quarantine on inmates entering the prisons, limited inmate transfers, and imposed strict temperature checks on staff and contractors. But the chief federal public defender for the Southern District of Indiana, Monica Foster, questions why there are still COVID cases at USP and FCI Terre Haute if these procedures are being followed.
My information from inside the prison is that they're not wearing masks uniformly. That in some instances, even the medical staff is not wearing masks.
On August 31st, the Bureau of Prisons resumed family visits, but Foster says she's not letting her public defenders visit inmates in person until positive cases decrease to near zero, and it is a decision she does not take lightly.
It's very, very difficult to develop a trusting relationship over the phone. And a trusting relationship is sort of the core piece of the attorney-client relationship.
Foster says she is extremely concerned about what she thinks is a lack of transparency from the Bureau of Prisons about conditions inside its facilities. For Harmon, she says she had to keep calling the Terre Haute facility before getting any answers about the status of her brother.
You get no word from anyone. No one even contacted me to let me know that Jimmy had COVID-19.
The Bureau of Prisons says that during the pandemic, visits are non-contact and social distancing is strictly enforced. It also says that inmate phone minutes have been increased from 300 to 500 per month and that those calls are free for the inmates during the pandemic. Reporting for Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Our election coverage continues with profiles of the candidates for Attorney General. Incumbent Curtis Hill is not on the ballot after being accused of sexual misconduct. Ahead, conversations with the two men hoping to replace him. And the Indiana football season finally kicks off this weekend. There won't be any fans in attendance, so the athletics department is getting creative to make sure there's still the same kind of excitement that comes with the home game. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
There's never been a more important time to make sure facts and the truth are driving conversation. Washington Week is an island of civil discourse in a chaotic media environment. On Friday nights, we gather the best reporters in the nation to unpack what's really happening and have a conversation that's not about point of view, but about informing the American people.
Washington Week.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Well, there's a brighter than usual spotlight on the race of Indiana Attorney General this year, mostly because of a person who's not in the race, the current AG, Curtis Hill. Hill's sexual misconduct while in office led to Republicans to choose former U.S. Representative Todd Rokita to face off against Democrat Jonathan Weinzapfel. Our State House reporter Brandon Smith sat down with both candidates to talk about the race. We begin first with his conversation with Todd Rokita.
How would you run the office differently in the next 4 years than it has the last 4 years?
Well, I would hope that there wouldn't be a distraction, right? And you can't deny the fact that, you know, there's obviously a lot of distraction in the office when the head of your office is under such a cloud. And then, like I did when I was Secretary of State, I have a culture in the office that allows people to serve with servants' hearts, being good counsel to the General Assembly, good counsel to the governor, and protecting the people of Indiana when it comes to their consumer decisions and how they're interacted with businesses around the state.
Indiana's currently involved with, led by Curtis Hill, a lawsuit that seeks to strike down the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
Would you want to continue Indiana's involvement in that lawsuit, and why would that be a good thing for the country and for the state?
I would keep us in that lawsuit to make sure our points as a state were being made. I believe, and it's been proven now with nearly a decade of Obamacare under our belts, that the promises haven't been kept. Consider the Healthy Indiana Plan. Now that predated Obamacare. We created this program to make sure that those that found themselves in a gap.
But isn't the expansion of the Healthy Indiana Plan funded by the Affordable Care Act?
Correct. That's correct. But that doesn't mean the funding has to go away, just the bad policies.
Inherent in the Affordable Care Act are protections for those with pre-existing conditions, the lifetime caps. How do you say, well, I like that, but I'm also fighting to get rid of this law?
Right. So to be clear, I am for covering people with pre-existing conditions. And although the Attorney General's office isn't a lawmaking office, I'm not the legislature, but I would be for and would help the General Assembly make sure that pre-existing conditions were covered.
The issue that's seemingly taking over all of our lives the last several months, COVID-19, how does the Attorney General's office, and how would it under your leadership intersect in addressing the pandemic?
Several different ways, and it's one of the main reasons I'm running. A lot of scam artists will be coming out. A lot of fraud will be out there. I'm the only one in this race that has a record of defending Indiana voters and taxpayers against fraudulent activity. When I was Secretary of State, we got 300 years of jail time for white-collar criminals. Also, look, we need to make this economy grow as quickly as we can. So what does the Attorney General have to do with economic development? Well, a lot. By virtue of protecting first against federal government regulatory overreach. And then even if our state agencies got out of hand in terms of stopping the economy from coming back and growing.
What role would you foresee playing in the debate around police reform, and what police reform do you think is needed in Indiana?
Yeah. The first question we have to ask is what's being taught right now? Oh, reform this and reform that, and no, don't do this anymore, but do this all the time. That's just a political decision that's being made because of a crisis at hand. What we really ought to do, if we want good policing, is first of all, listen to our police officers, find out what they're being taught right now. Once we understand that as leaders in a community, then we can decide, okay, together, with input from all stakeholders, neighborhood associations, community groups, the police officers, of course, themselves and their leadership.
I think a lot of Hoosiers don't know exactly what the Attorney General does. What is the most important duty of that office in your mind?
Look, at the end of the day, we have got to protect people. That's what government is for. And protect people has several different meanings. It's protecting them from consumer fraud and things like that the Attorney General does. But it also means protecting their liberty. It also means protecting their rights.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Democratic candidate Jonathan Weinzapfel is a former mayor of Evansville. He says he wants to tone down partisanship in the office of state government's top lawyer. Weinzapfel talked with Brandon Smith about the race's big issues and how he'd approached the job differently than its current occupant.
As you step into the office of Attorney General, if you win this race, what do you do differently? What is your priority in terms of changing how that office is run?
Well, I've had the opportunity to talk to some former deputy attorney generals, and it was a very interesting exchange. And what they have told me is that his ethical issues have been a huge distraction. His real focus on some partisan national issues has been a real distraction. As a result, there really hasn't been a focus on Indiana. And I think what I would offer is something completely different. I'm not interested in getting Indiana involved in national lawsuits. I'm not interested in playing the DC political games. I'm only going to get involved if it has a direct impact on Hoosiers.
The lawsuit that Indiana, led by Curtis Hill, is involved in, trying to permanently strike down across the board the Affordable Care Act. What do you see as the future of health care as it relates to how you would lead Indiana as Attorney General?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, we'll pull Indiana out of that lawsuit on day one. But I think symbolically it's important to stand up and say this is not good policy. This is simply just about someone's partisan political agenda. Killing the ACA would have a profound impact on Hoosiers. We're talking about 2.7 million who have some type of pre-existing condition, right? Whether that's high blood pressure, diabetes, a positive test for coronavirus. That means if Todd Rokita and Curtis Hill are successful, that means these individuals are going to have a very difficult time finding insurance in the future, or they're going to have to pay exorbitant rates. In addition, you have 550,000 Hoosiers who have received health care through the expansion of the Healthy Indiana Plan, which was enabled under the Affordable Care Act. These are folks who are going to immediately lose their insurance right in the middle of a global pandemic. This makes zero sense, and frankly, I find it unconscionable.
There's perhaps nothing that has dominated headlines over this year, obviously more than COVID-19. What would you do as Attorney General to confront this pandemic?
Well, first, probably one of the more important things that has transpired over this last several months is the governor's public statewide mask order, right? Curtis Hill issued an advisory opinion basically saying he doesn't have the legal authority to do that. My opponent, Todd Rokita, says, well, we all just have the legislature deal with it. And, frankly, I'm the only one who stood up and actually supported the Republican governor because, frankly, we have to get this virus under control. The Consumer Protection Division, I think, would be incredibly important as we're protecting seniors from fraud and abuse. I think, through the Medicaid, also the Medicaid Fraud Division, making sure we're holding nursing homes accountable.
How do you see your role in the discussion around police reform, and what would you push for?
We have to give law enforcement the utmost respect, and frankly, they need to be involved in these discussions. But with that, I think we ought to start with what the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus has put on the table. I think there are some good ideas there. I think several things we ought to be doing is requiring police officers throughout the state to wear body cams.
I think a lot of people don't know or misunderstand what the Office of the Attorney General does. So in your view, as you're running for this office and talking to voters, what do you see as the most important duty of the Attorney General?
Basically, it is to be the people's attorney, but it means representing the people. And especially in this case with coronavirus, making sure we're protecting them, protecting their health care, protecting their wages, trying to create a better future for them. There are a lot of people who say, well, let's get back to normal. Well, there's no going back to, life has changed dramatically. And what this creates is an opportunity for us to really shape our future, right? And I'd like to be a part of those discussions and leading Indiana to a place where there's greater opportunity and that we have a more just and fair system for everybody.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, the election is in a week and a half, but thousands of Hoosiers voters have already cast their votes. Take a look at this line. This is at election headquarters in Monroe County. The line has stretched for blocks every day since early voting started about 3 weeks ago. On average, more than 1,000 people a day are casting their ballot. Some people have reported waiting in line for as long as 2 hours. Early voting ends on the 2nd, the day before the election. Well, Indiana finally opens the 2020 football season tomorrow, but because of the COVID pandemic, there won't be fans in the stadium. As Pat Bean reports, the university is trying to make the game day experience feel as normal as ever for the players and fans watching on TV.
The leaves are changing colors as fall settles on the Midwest. Normally, Indiana would be at the halfway point of its football season by now, but these are not normal times. Because of COVID-19, the Big Ten delayed the start of the season to this weekend and put restrictions on game days. That means a shortened season, no fans in attendance, and no tailgating outside the stadium.
We're going to do our best to prevent large gatherings outside of the stadium as well, and all of our gates will be manned. It will be impossible to get into parking lots without a pass.
Inside the stadium, Indiana will shoot for a game day atmosphere even without fans.
There will be an intro video that they run out to. There will be a national anthem played before the game. There will be graphics on the video board after a touchdown is scored.
IU will play traditional sounds such as the Jaws theme used on third downs and scoreboard videos of the Marching 100 and cheerleaders. Crowd noise provided by video game giant EA Sports will be pumped in. When and how to use the crowd noise can be something of an art form.
You'd see a play developing and you'd think, oh, it's going to go 50 yards, and then the running back might fumble the ball, and suddenly the momentum shifts instantly, but yet you're still playing crowd noise and everybody's excited, and you realize, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
The Big Ten is allowing family of staff and players to attend. They will be joined by fan cutouts in the north and south end zones. Indiana is selling the cutouts and has various promotional tie-ins available, depending on the package fans purchase.
We've got probably close to 400 seats in the north end zone, so, if we can fill 3/4 of that, that'd be awesome.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Pat Bean.
That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.